All right, we'd like to welcome each and every individual to Voices of Integrity podcast training for the Business X-ray interview. And so, oh my goodness, so much work has gone into this, like getting the X-ray sale, like all kinds of marketing and literally hundreds of thousands of emails. And then there's all the phone calling and everything else. And so then we did the 30-minute strategy session, and then we got somebody say yes to the Business X-ray, and now we do the interview. And if the interview is not done, well, it can blow up the whole sale. Not to put any pressure on anybody, it'll be fine. You'll be fine. Seriously, it's deceptively easy to do the interview. Like it's really not that hard at all. But there are a bunch of little things that can go ahead and trip you up. And we've lost more than one X-ray over the last 30 plus years sale based on the interview. So make sure you're taking really good notes. You're pausing, going back, listening again. Make sure you're really listening what's being shared, and you're internalizing these things too. Now, Elise, when she was doing the Business X-ray, I don't know. We can check and might put something on here. She might have some tips and stuff like that. I don't know, but I think it took her, I don't know, 3-4 years where I would train her in little pieces. Oh, here's a little piece, here's a little piece, here's a little piece, here's a little piece. So there's a whole bunch of little pieces. We're not going to be training you in all of those. We're going to train you in the big picture, but there's a number of small pieces. Here's some of the most important things. The person who sold the Business X-ray probably has a strategy on how the X-ray is going to just wow this person. It's going to change their life. It's going to be, and there's little nuances. So it's not mechanical. It's like it's in flow. Like I understand. So Nora's going to be doing an X-ray interview tomorrow. This particular gentleman, he was in coaching, 5 years ago. And then he's starting back up his company. So he hasn't been running his company for 5 years. So he asked a legitimate question, and he said, would I get any benefit out of it? So he's thinking naturally, well, if I don't have a business, it's like kind of, how can you X-ray a person who's not alive? Like you can't do that. So he's asking a valid question. When I answered him, I said, no, it'll be really good for you because, it's going to help you see things and understand things and, 1 million, 2 million, 10 million. So I went through the whole thing and the strategy worked. And he said, yeah, I'll do it. And so we have the responsibility now to deliver an amazing experience to him. He trusted me, and now we have to fulfill that trust by giving him a great experience. So when you go into the X-ray interview, read through this, the training, go through that, and then you're going to click here, and that's going to be, to read over the document. So this is the document that you're going to have. Now, here you have the version number, and so this is the last update. So if you make changes to it, little changes would just be 7 0.001 or 2 or 3 or 7. Typically you're not making an 8 change. You don't make a big one. And then it put the specific date on here. Be careful in making changes to this. First thing you do is when you bring it up, you can print it out. So normally people will print it out and then they'll handwrite it out and put it into the MCAT system, which will be another training another time on how to do that. So most people will print it out. If you get really good and you're confident with the technology, well, I don't recommend it. I've done it myself. And that is where I'll actually input the information right into MCAT immediately. The risk is that if something goes wrong, you lose all that information. So it's up to you. Or maybe it's not up to you. Somebody's mentoring you and they say, hey, print it out and then write it all down. Now, if you do that, a couple of things. If you do that, make sure you take a picture of it afterwards and you email or text that picture of this document and all the answers to at least one other person. Because what happens if, you get in an accident or you lose it or something like that, all that data is lost. So as soon as you're done, take a picture of it, get it over to at least one other person. Now, some x-rays are really simple. It's just by the book. Many are not. And so if they're not, you have to get the strategy from the person who sold them. Like, what are the little nuances? You want to review over the x-ray or the MCAT notes and understand their personality, their biggest challenge, what they love help with. They like to change their coachability, their wow income, minimum income goal. You don't, like, one thing, I go into a doctor's office, it kind of irritates me, where the receptionist asks me, then the nurse asks me, and then the doctor asks me. It's like, do you guys not pass along the information? I know that there's a strategy, I guess, where they want to make sure you really understand what's wrong with you. I don't know. Does that change a lot? Maybe it does. But anyways, let's not irritate our clients. It's not a good thing. Like, if we have information, probably don't want to ask that information again. And Nora can, interrupt me at any time if you'd like to, in going through any of this. Okay. So here, honestly, I haven't been in this for quite a while, so I don't really do x-ray interviews anymore. And so I don't do these anymore. So should you improve this document? Yes, as long as you're confident that it's an improvement. make sure it's an improvement. So if you have, I don't know, just use good judgment. I mean, it can track who's making the changes. So make sure that, you probably want to run it by, especially if you're new, want to run it by one or two other people and say, hey, does this make sense to do? With this particular one we're doing tomorrow, so it's a business hasn't been run for 5 years. So you want to, and in general, the safest thing is to go ahead and ask them information. I don't know what all this small print is. You can go through and read that and see how that works and everything like this. This right here is pretty good. I'm not sure who put this in here, but this is good. Note to x-ray interviewer. If interviewer does not know what type of business it is, then start with that. So it's really frustrating. We're coaching them 2-3 months into the, coaching, and we don't know what their industry is. So you want to know what their industry is. And it's in MCAT, in that top screen, it says type of industry. So are they a builder? Are they accountant? What type of industry are they in? And then you get them talking about themselves. And so, here it says, so before we get started, tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, and your company. So moms will tend to like to go ahead and share, pictures and experiences of their children. They typically do. Dads, I don't know, maybe not as much, but moms like that. Business owners are going to often like to go ahead and share stories about their business. Now, you have an hour to do the interview. Typically, it can be done in about 30-35 minutes, unless you have a talker, and I'll explain that too what happens if you have a talker. So some of these, I think Mary Jo, I don't know if she had the record, but one of them was 2.5 hours. It's like, that's a long interview. So especially if you can get it done in 35 minutes. So you have, with 60 minutes, you have time where they can go into some things. So you want to get them talking about themselves where they're comfortable with you. If somebody said, I don't know if I should do this, and they were sold in doing it, they have to be comfortable with you as an interviewer. So are you interested? Do you like them? Are you pleasant? You don't want to just get into the questions. You want to find out something about them. So according to my notes, your biggest challenge might be this and this. Do you have any other challenges? So what you're doing is you might be going through some of the key, some of the questions from the 30-minute. Like, is this accurate? Is there other information that you have? So, so it's building flow and trust with them. And so where they like you. So if they like you in the interview, then the review is going to go better. So it's flow. 30-minute. Man, I really like the person who did the 30-minute. Boy, I really like the person who did the interview. Well, if they like those two people and they felt it's like, does everybody in your company care? Novel concept. Like, and so that makes the review go good. And if you make the review go good, then you're more likely to go to the next step if that's the right step for them, which is the business x-ray. So there might be other questions that you go ahead and maybe you put these in, the document here in the future. So this is, where do your prospects come from? That's kind of no warm up. That's just kind of like, how do you get most of your business? That's maybe a little bit. So you can always soften things up by, I'm curious. So again, for doctors, they say it's bedside manners. So you're not just here to gather up information. You're here to get them to know, like, and trust you. And so, for this particular one, there might be a section that some of you put in, maybe Nora or some other people can enhance this for somebody who's starting their business. So, so somebody who's just starting their business, why would they do a business x-ray? Because it helps them to understand what they should do so they don't go out and do the wrong things, which is very costly. Now, this guy, he was in business 5 years ago. So there's a reason he didn't continue. So tell me a little bit, spend just a couple minutes if you could. Tell me a little bit how you did business 5 years ago. Like what were some things you did right 5 years ago? Was there anything that you could see that you improved or you thought about doing but never did? So again, you want to start drawing it out of them on where it is. And so that's going to make them know, like, and trust you, like, wow, this person really is asking some great questions. All right. It goes into some of the stuff here about being a doctor. And so it goes into some of that. And, again, it really is like a doctor when they're doing an examination on you. They don't just go ahead and say, take off all your clothes, put this on. Like, it's, have a little softness. Like, you're kind of undressing them like they're kind of naked emotionally with you. And so they need to feel comfortable that you're not going to misuse the information or you're not going to judge them. You don't go ahead and go, whoa, like, wow, like, you don't want to do that. Like, you've seen everything before. It's okay. You've seen it now. So being able to go through this, they talk to them about the warm belly rub, those types of things. Here, I would say when you're first starting the interview, when you're first starting to do business x-ray interviews, don't worry about 3, okay? Just kind of ignore that. Keep it in the back of your mind that you can do it, but don't try to do it on your first interview, okay? I have closed back when I was doing the x-ray, like I did the sale and then I did the interview, then I did the review and I did all of that. When I was doing that, I learned how to do the x-ray interview so well that I did sell some of clients without ever doing the review on them. Like, they were sold in the x-ray. The x-ray was one of the hardest things for me to give up in all of Synergy. So the x-ray, I really, really like doing the x-ray a lot because it's just fun. It's just like you get to know people and if you can get them laughing and you get them connecting and all that kind of stuff, you're in flow and they're like, oh, I'm so terrible. Like, when they're asking the questions, like, oh, I'm bad. And you kind of giggle with me. Oh, you're fine. This is great. And so it's a really, really important part of the sales process. So if you didn't do the 30-minute interview, the 30-minute interview was also hard for me to give up because that gives the opportunity to make the x-ray sale. The x-ray interview gives me the ability to make the Action Vision sale. So once you start learning how to do this, you can shortcut stuff and you can feel when you're going through where they're ready for the x-ray. They don't even need the results. It's actually pretty simple if you feel that. Again, not your first or second time probably, but you can feel like they're right there. They're like, my gracious, this is so awesome. Like, I realize how pathetic I am. You guys can help me. Okay. So what I would do is I'd just say, normally we wait until the review. So it's up to you. If you really want to move fast, we wait for the review. But if you want, I can go over and kind of explain the Action Vision system to you. We have a little extra time. And some number of them said, no, yeah, I would. I'd explain it to them. They say, yeah, let's do it. Just bam, right then and there. But again, not your first or second time. Get a little bit under your belt. In here it goes through, and I think it does a pretty good job of explaining. Now, in here, there's 3 sections. So there's 3 sections, and if you can visualize, and I don't know, it might be good to go ahead and. So here, when you're sitting in on an X-ray review, okay. So when you're sitting on an X-ray review, you can print this off. So Nora's going to go ahead and do the interview, and then she will sit in on the review. Because she's probably going to be, she's like, I don't want Mark to have all the fun. Like, next time I'm going to do the review, and I'm with her on this. Absolutely, do the review. So here it's mapped out, the review. This is the review. This is really like, somebody really did some work. Like, here's the first thing, the second thing, the third thing, the fourth thing. So if we go up here, you can see, there's the bar, the graph, or whatever you want to call it, the pie graph. And so there's 3 slices to the pie. And so if you have the upper left-hand side, this is going to be referral partners. Upper right-hand side is going to be current and past clients. And then the lower middle is going to be prospects. Now, if I had to do it all over again, I would do it a little different. We start with the referrals. These first three questions, how many professional referral sources do you bring added value services on a product? This is not an easy question for them. This is probably the hardest of the 27 questions. This is probably the hardest. They don't even know what a referral source is. So you don't have to ask these in orders, and you might not. You might start off, rather than the first 9, you might go ahead and start off with 10, through 18. Or you can go ahead and start off with, 19 through 28 or 27. So what might be good, Nora, is we would do a break in between here. Like, we could go ahead and after 9, we could put something, okay, now we're going into. So this can probably tighten up some on the instructions here. And so the first 3 questions are going to be as it relates to referral partners, and it's your in-person, I think. Yeah. And then the next 3, so 4, 5, and 6 are going to be phone. And then 7, 8, and 9 are going to be are going to be direct mail. So there's 3 questions that determine the color on each of these. So the first 3 questions of the 9 will determine your in-person. The second 3 questions will determine your phone, and the third 3 questions are going to determine your your direct mail, email, TV, radio, anything reaching the masses. So we can probably tighten up some of this. That'll give a little bit better explanation here. So you don't have to go ahead and ask them in order. You can start with, section 2 or 3. You don't have to do 1. And Nora and I'll work on this a little bit to maybe make it a little bit more clear. Now, in referral partners, you often have to explain that a little bit to them. So my first question, so what I do is I go ahead and say, I'm going to be asking you, a question, and then multiple choice A, B, or C. This is when I start to go ahead. So my first 10 minutes, let's say, my first 5 to 10 minutes, maybe 5, I'm going to be really nice. I'm going to be amiable. I'm going to be, whatever they want to talk. I just want them to feel comfortable with me. Once I start getting into the questions, I'm going to move into more of an expressive and driver for their own benefit. I don't want them overthinking these questions. I don't want them inanalytic. I don't want them explaining it. I want them just giving me an answer. So what I'll do is I'll say, I'm going to ask you multiple choice. You can answer A, B, or C, whichever best describes, or you can answer A, B, or B, C. You can answer two if you want to. You don't need to think about it. You just want to do it intuitively. Like intuition, what is it? And if you're not sure, you just kind of guess. Don't worry about it. This system is so strong, the analysis is so strong, it kind of factors in where you're not sure. So that the analytic and the double analytics and the amiables, they're going to be the ones that take 2.5 hours if you let them. Okay, so referral partner. So the first question is, to how many A professional referral sources do you bring added value services and a product, services and or product on a monthly basis? A, 5 to 20, B, more than 20, or C, 0 to 4. What I mean by professional, I don't even take a breath there because I don't want them to interrupt me. I don't know. I don't. What you don't want them to do is freak out on the first questions because that's a negative experience. That's why you might go down to, you might go down to question 9 and start in question 9. Do all of your marketing efforts do you do marketing efforts? What kind of marketing efforts do you do? So you actually don't, I'm reluctant to say this, but you want to ask them the questions. But there are some situations where you make exceptions, you override it, and you'll just do it like an interview. Do you have any marketing? Do you do any marketing? So the questions are, the A is going to be the best. B is going to be next best. So A is going to be blue. B is going to be red or green, and C is going to be yellow. So blue is the highest. Red and green is next. So over here. So if it's yellow, it means that they've answered C's to everything in those questions. If it's red, then they answered A and B. If it's blue, then they've answered A. So based on each of these, it's all color-coded based on the numbers or what they're giving here. So I could go ahead and just say, do you do any marketing? If they say, no, we don't do any marketing, like nothing at all, I could just go in and I don't have to ask them all on C, and I just answer C. So you don't have to go ahead and do A, B, C. I always did it. Well, there were a few times I didn't. So if they're not solid, if they're kind of like a chihuahua, like they're all yippy and they're like all, rigid, like chill out. It's not the end of the world. I can just do that. I can just do that because I'm the interviewer. So I can go ahead and answer those things. So probably we might do, if Nora wants me to, or others want me to do it, I can go through and do another training another time, not now, but another time. And I can go through and ask how these questions. Now it's been over 15 years since probably I've done an X-ray interview, but I did them, for 15 years. So it's like, once you get used, it's just, so there's little nuances in here. Like I know I need to define a referral partner. So I said, so what I mean by a referral partner is typically it's a business owner, or it could be a community leader. You're going to get referrals from clients. It's not that. This is somebody that gives you referrals on a regular basis. Do you have any of those people? Do you have anybody that gives you professional, like business owners or people, community-based, that give you consistent business on a regular basis? And they're like, no. Say, would you like systems to help you do that? And they're going to say, well, yeah, sure. So then I might, depending if they're talkers or not, I might say, okay, no problem. We'll build that in. And I can just go through the first 9 questions. If they don't have any referral partners, it's C all the way through. So I don't even have to ask them that. Now, there is a benefit to asking them because in asking them, it creates a guilt, but not necessarily a bad guilt. It creates like, oh, I should be doing that. Oh, I should be. And some will do that, typically women, a little more expressive. I've been bad. This is, so you can go ahead and by going through, and asking the questions, it creates like, wow, I learned so much from these questions that you ask. So the questions themselves, they're pretty, I mean, they're really thought out and really interesting in what they go through. So we'll save the details, but we'll probably go through another time. And I'll just go ahead and ask these 28, 27 questions and how I do it in the tone. So Miriam said, in selling this X-ray that I did in the 30-minute, she says it was hypnotizing. Like it was just so. The same thing is true with the X-ray interview. It's hypnotizing. People are like they have all this tension. It's like a chiropractor, like a mental chiropractor. It's like they have all this tension build up because they're not doing what they should be doing. And when you ask the questions, they're like, well, if you're asking these questions, you can probably solve this for me. So I don't have to have all this tension inside. And it's like, exactly. You're in good hands. Sit back, relax. Questions, Nora?
No, I don't think so. You explained that very well.
Okay, good. So it is fun. Like you can tell, like you say, when he said he really had a hard time giving this up, like you can tell the energy. Like it's 7:33 at night, but it doesn't seem like that. It seems like he's excited. Like if he could get back in and do this again, he would. Like, I mean, I guess he could, but like it's because it's like it's when you're asking the questions, you move them just this way, then you move them just this way. It's great training to become a wizard or a wizardess because they're just it's like this it's just this perfect experience where you're in flow with the person and that person is like there's hope out there for me. So it's really really neat. It's not that hard at all, but pay attention because it can get a little dicey on you at times. And so but it won't if you go ahead and do it. And if it did, it's if you do everything you're trained to do, it's fine. It'll be totally okay. Any other questions that you have, Nora?
Um, I don't think so.
Okay.
It'll be fun to sit in on the review then, that's for sure.
Oh my gracious. You'll be like, and it's the coolest thing. Like it's the this is when you know you're ready. Because you're like go through the review, and then all of a sudden at the end, it's like, yeah, I'll do Action Vision. You're like, really? Like, really? Like I could have done that. I didn't need Mark to do it. It really it can't not every time it works like that. Like the guy that did the 30 minutes and doing, Nora's doing the like it. I didn't have to really push him. It's just move it just a little bit here and there. But it really is neat because you are changing people's lives. And when you understand what the business x-ray is, especially because it's only $285, it's been $285 for the last 33 years. Like we've never raised the price in 33 years because it's a good number. It gets them somewhat invested, but it's very inexpensive. And remember this story too, that I always share when I'm presenting the X-ray as a solution. There's a gentleman that did the review, and a number of years ago, and Mark or we had the privilege of doing the review. And the guy at the end of the interview, we asked him, our review, did you have any questions? And he said, yeah, I'm so ticked off. And it's like, whoa, why? It's like, well, because I wish I'd have known you guys a year ago. Well, why is that? Because I paid $40,000 to have somebody come in and analyze my business, and I learned more from your $285 X-ray, than I did with the 40,000. It's like, ouch, man, we could have saved you a lot of money. Yeah, absolutely. And then if you want to, like if you like the reviewer, you can sell them too. I know. If I'm doing the review, it's a little harder, but you can say the guy's brilliant. I don't laugh. Like the guy's brilliant and he's really caring. And or if I'm selling Nora, it's like, yeah, Nora's going to do the review. Oh my goodness, you're going to have so much fun with her. She's amazing, and the insight and how much she covers and goes over everything. like you're going to really enjoy it. As a matter of fact, I think I might actually be sitting in on that. So you'll have a great time. So what you're doing is you're handing it off from one person to the next person. And then you're making sure that all of that positive energy that you had in doing the 30-minute or the interview or the review gets passed off to the next one. So hopefully this has been helpful for sure. Always remember we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.